In the beginning, when I first started working in the Everglades, I started with this kind of traditional question in environmental anthropology, which was, how are places that feel like nature also places of history and culture? And a lot of anthropologists and geographers and others have written about wilderness in this way. And that's how I started. I was very interested in kind of uncovering this hidden history of nature. And in particular, a kind of hidden history of nature that's associated with poor rural people. As I studied the Everglades more over time, I became interested in a question that's more associated with political ecology, and that was not just what's the hidden history of nature, but why does certain kinds of histories get hidden? And so I became interested in a more of a political question about how do we forget the lives of rural poor people, and how do we forget those histories and stories as they're associated with places that are nature. And so that's how my work progressed, from kind of an environmental anthropology question to a more political ecology question. Throughout the course of my research, first in the Everglades and now in southern Patagonia, I've been interested in how the environment shapes lives. But what I've learned through this research is less about the environment, perhaps, and more about what it means to be human. In the Everglades, hunters in the Everglades, the thing I learned was that to be an Everglades hunter is contingent upon living in relation with alligators, with mangroves, with water. And in my work in Patagonia, I'm also interested in trying to rethink kind of classic questions in conservation by taking a relational approach. So, for instance, in Patagonia, one of the big environmental problems there are introduced species, like they are everywhere. And so there I'm trying to think about introduced species in new ways, not just as outsiders who've been brought in, but to try to think about, well, what kinds of relations are occurring there, how do they change, and how do we bring a new kind of ethical standpoint to thinking about living and dying in times of ecological crisis.